All right, I'm inside an MBA classroom at my school's business school, and I'm here to tell you today that everything you've done in your life has been for external validation, and you've wanted that external validation to determine your self-worth. I just had to say that. I don't want you to repeat the same mistakes I did. And I know right now you feel like that you have to do all these things. You have to get into med school, join this internship, be with this person maybe, make this much money per month, start this business. And the list goes on and on and on. But life is not a list of accomplishments. Let me explain. Look, wanting to do all these things with your life is fantastic, but you don't need to devote every cell of your being to being the best, being in this club, being, so just amazing at your school, having, 4.0 to get into this college, starting this club, like I said earlier. You don't need to do all these things, That's not how you're going to find your self-worth, and it's not going to make you love yourself. When I started community college, because I'm a community college transfer, I was just so adamant about getting into Stanford. I was like, I need to get into Stanford. I need to just eradicate all the shame I feel for being at community college. And there's nothing wrong with being at community college, by the way. I need to eradicate all that shame. I need to, kind of compensate for that. And I just got to get into an elite university. And I started this club, and I did this content creation thing. And I joined the speech and debate team. And I did all these positive, lovely things, but I did them from a negative standpoint. I did them because I wanted to just get that validation from the world. I wanted to impress the world, And now here I am, my fourth year of college. I'm at UCSD, did not go to Stanford, not even go to Berkeley or UCLA like I wanted to, but I wound up in a really cool place, and I think life has been great for me. So don't think that you need to work so hard to do all these things, because I think a lot of you guys are just doing those things to get the validation of everyone around you. And you just want that sense of, everyone's impressed by me. I'm so good, like all that pride, but it's going to give you the opposite effect. So look, the more you work, the more you check off the list of accomplishments, the more burned out you're going to feel. You're doing all these things because you feel like you're not enough, and because of that, the list is never going to be enough. You're just going to keep doing things, starting this company, joining this club, Next up is med school. Okay, next up, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And don't get me wrong, probably the biggest majority of you guys are doing this because you want to live a good life. You want to be rich and successful, and that's amazing. But realize that all these accomplishments are not going to give you that happiness, and it's not going to give you the true richness of life. A rich life isn't just having a lot of money and material possessions and, doing all these awesome things, being a CEO or a doctor or a lawyer. A rich life is just about having great experiences. It's about being a great person and sharing that wisdom and sharing, the love and company with other people and being a good person to them and being good to yourself. So, the fact that you want to do all these things is really admirable and really great. And perhaps you don't want to impress people. Perhaps you don't want their external validation. But even so, just realize and be very mindful of the fact that you may just be doing these things to determine your self-worth and to, accomplish everything to really just find that sense of self. And I'm telling you now, that's not how you do it. You're not going to find your self-worth by accomplishing all these things and by having a great small business and by getting into med school and, oh my gosh, I'm so amazing, I'm doing all this and all that. You're going to find your self-worth just by going through the process of trying to get all these things, of trying to be a CEO, of trying to get into med school or whatever it is, So looking at my little notebook here, you don't need to do all these things to feel good about yourself. You don't. It's not going to make you feel any better about who you are. I think it's so rooted in our culture nowadays to just, push young people to accomplish so much, especially in California, where I'm from. You got to do this, you got to be that, especially coming from an immigrant family. It's so it's pressuring. It puts so much pressure on you. But just realize you don't need to do all these things for other people. You don't need to impress your family. You don't have to, adhere to familial pressure. You don't need to do that. You don't. Just do what you love, figure out who you are, figure out what you want, and go from that. You don't need to impress everyone around you. You don't. And you don't need that external validation from starting a club, from getting an internship, from making a certain amount of money per month to really determine your self-worth. And maybe some of you guys are just doing those things because you want the money and you just want to be successful and rich. But please, 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 if you are that demographic, be mindful of the fact that you may be doing it for the validation of others. You may be doing it because you want to inflate your self-worth, and that is not the way to do it. So unless you want to live a good life and be successful, just remember, stop trying to do these things for the opinions of other people. Don't live for the opinions of others. All right, another really nice quote that I think relates to everything we're talking about today is that you shouldn't look at yourself through the eyes of the world. Don't look at yourself through the eyes of others. You don't need to do that. Just look at yourself through yourself. Are you proud of what you're doing? Are you proud of who you are? Do you have that sense of purpose in life? Like, am I making strides towards my goals? And are those goals actually rooted in a healthy motive of wanting to be successful, wanting to have a decent life, not wanting to impress people, not wanting the validation of my family and my friends, not wanting likes and posts, not wanting likes on all my posts, If it's not rooted in that externality, if it's rooted in the internality of just wanting to feel purpose and wanting to feel good about who you are, then that's great. But don't try to feel good about who you are by trying to impress people and by trying to get everyone's opinion. Just the fact that you're posting, oh, look at my sick jazz performance. Look at my, super cool, college admissions letter. Oh yeah, I got into, Berkeley, I got into Brown. Yeah. No one cares, man. No one cares. It's super funny that I'm talking about all these things, being successful in life and how that could be rooted in a wrong motive when I'm in an MBA classroom and when I'm, standing in a room where people before me have just, been completely motivated by those things, motivated by wanting a lot of money, by wanting, to be successful. But, I think their motivation was much healthier than your guys's. It wasn't about getting validation from others. It was just about living a life that they wanted to. And I know every one of you guys is not trying to get validation, but still, I think it's important to note. It's important to say that. Hello. What's up?
Sorry, I'm just an old alone checking out the space. I haven't been here in like a decade.
Really?
Are you practicing something?
I'm in a YouTube video. Do you want to be in it?
Hells yeah.
Awesome. What's your name, bro?
Lucas Fornace. What's cracking?
I'm just talking about external validation and how that should not determine our self-worth.
Good deal.
Yeah. See you around, all right?
Carry on.
Yeah, so that guy, he definitely did not want external validation from others. You could see that. He was happy to be here. Maybe he did, but I don't really get that vibe. So just remember that from Lucas, Get an MBA, get an MD, get a JD, do all these amazing things. But please, don't do them for your family. Don't do them to look cool to everyone. Don't do them to look at yourself through the eyes of the world and the perceived opinion that people are going to like you. Because at the end of the day, they don't matter, okay? Look, you are not going to feel any better about yourself by getting into med school, starting a company, by doing all these amazing things that you think are amazing, than if you didn't have them in the first place, okay? Net worth does not equal self-worth. I'm going to say that again. Net worth does not equal self-worth, okay? You don't need all these accomplishments to feel good about yourself, okay? You're not going to, because the list is never going to end, because it's predicated on the idea that you are not enough, based on whoever's opinion of you, your family saying that you need this and that, or else we're going to disown you, or maybe it's just the fact that you are just obsessed with people's opinions of you, as am I and everyone else who's young out there in their 20s, So just stop trying to do things for other people, stop trying to do things because you don't think you are enough. I think just based on that notion, it'll never be enough, anything you do. So I'm going to close it out here, and I just want to say again, remember the motives behind everything you're doing. All these clubs you want to start, the grads program you want to get into, the internship you want, the job you want. Why are you doing all this stuff, Do you really want the money? Do you want to have a successful life? Or are you just doing it to impress your family, find that pride among the opinions of other people, and just, have that inflated self-worth by accomplishing things? Which side of the coin is it, Internal or external? Internal being, the positive stuff, and external being the negative stuff related to people's opinions of you. Because you don't need that stuff. You don't need their validation. Trust me, you don't. So I'm going to end it at that. Please please subscribe. I am on Substack as well, so subscribe to that. Follow me there, and follow me on Instagram. Never stop learning.